ladies, let me ask you about this. What about that moment in a relationship when you realized your partner is far from perfect? Like, obviously, we say moms aren't perfect. No relationship is gonna be perfect.
Right.
But what about that moment when you're looking at the man of your dreams and you're like, oh, you are flawed? or that they change. An article in inspiringtips.com says it's possible to accept someone for who they are, even if they aren't your cup of tea. So, tell me, is accepting someone another way of settling?
No.
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 No, 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 no.
You have to accept people as they are.
Even if they change from what you originally wanted?
Well, you know what? And that's when you have to decide, is that change too drastic for you?
Right.
Because maybe that change is growth. Maybe
Right.
that changes they're a better person, right? So I think you have to figure out, before you even get into a relationship like that, you have to decide, what is it? Like, if they were always thin and all of a sudden they weigh 300 pounds, does that change your love for them?
It shouldn't.
Right? It shouldn't, right? So I
Especially
think
when
it's
you
what
get-
you're willing to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I love that you use the word growth, because technically we all should change. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
I want you to expect me to
Right.
change. You don't want to marry the same person.
Right.
You want to see me
Right.
grow, evolve,
Right.
and maybe even like have different habits that you never saw me have before.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm going to take it even more extreme with what you're saying. What if they change into a person that is totally different than what you married
what
or
I'm
hooked up
saying.
with?
Well, that's when
See,
stuff starts to change.
And
Right.
how do the rules of marriage apply? Because marriage is till death do we
For
part.
better
Right,
or worse.
right.
So how does that work? Because if Jeezy changed so much that I didn't even, looks-wise,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be that. For me, it would be mental. That's when it would really get to me. Like, sometimes you read these stories where women marry somebody and the person turns out to be a total different, like maybe a crook or like a scammer, or like,
Right.
in those cases, I wouldn't be able to stay. Like,
Right.
that's really
Right.
tough, right?
Well, that you're talking about moral
Absolutely.
issues, but my
Right.
thing is that I always look at myself first. I think whenever you're dealing in relationships,
Yeah.
if this person is changing, I have to say, okay, what about me has changed? If you're talking about like appearances and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Turn it inward.
Exactly, and
actually really
actually
smart.
turning it in to myself to say,
Yes.
am I okay with me first? And then, but if it's moral issues, then you may have to end the relationship.
Yeah.
But I always tell people, especially my girlfriends that's been in long relationships, I'm like, what about you has changed?
Right.
Because he putting up with some stuff that you done did.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
So
That's like
I
that
think
thing they
that's what it
say
is.
where you're pointing at somebody, but you got three fingers pointing right back at you.
All the time.
right.
Check yourself
Yeah.
first.
That's right.
All
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
time.
And I want to be with somebody who wants to see me constantly growing, who
Yes.
doesn't want me to stay
Yes.
stagnant. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that. I want someone that is constantly encouraging me to be the best version of myself. And if I wasn't, I'm okay with someone checking me and being like, babe, this is something you told me you wanted and you're slacking on it, which happens often, if I'm
Right.
honest. I have goals that I set in place and then I slack off, and I appreciate that I'm married to a man
Who will remind you.
reminds me of the things I wanted, the
Yes.
goals
But
that
if
I
that man
set.
has flaws, though, if that man, because I'm not talking about moral issues,
Yeah.
I'm talking about like a flaw.
Right.
Like what? What's a flaw that's not a moral one?
Like you said, maybe they gained a little weight.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe they bald,
Okay,
now.
okay.
Yeah, but those are
Maybe they
physical
impotent.
changes. I feel like if the physical
the big one.
changes,
What if you're not a smoker and all of a sudden he's become a smoker?
See, that's a big one.
That's a big
Like,
one.
what do you do with that?
Yeah,
that's a
right?
big one. Or, what if there's something they did during a certain time of your life dating, and now either entering parenthood, you don't want them to do that anymore? I know
Yeah.
a lot of
Like, what do you
girlfriends of
mean?
mine who had a boyfriend who smoked weed. And then that was cool when they were dating, and it
Yeah.
wasn't any big deal. They were younger, and it was cool. And now they've gotten married.
Yeah.
He now was smoking once in a while. And maybe that's not something they want around their children. And it's been a really difficult conversation for them as of late.
That's where you got to come to, and you have to compromise.
Yeah.
It's like, because
Maybe
I
don't
feel
smoke
like
in
it's
the
not
house.
it's not
Yeah.
in my power to say you can't do that.
Right.
Now, if it's
Now
hard
you're his
drugs,
mother.
yeah.
It's not illegal,
Right.
you know.
But maybe you can't do that in the house. You
Right.
can't do that around me. Definitely not around the kids. It has to be some type of compromise,
Compromise.
that could happen.
That's right.
And hopefully they adhere to that.
Right.
But overall, go ahead and expect your partner to change.
Yes.
Like, you
For
guys
sure.
don't expect them to say the same.
Say-
It's not
that's
fair to hold
exactly
on
right.
anybody.
And that would be so boring.
Look forward to changes and try to look for the good in it, and always judge yourself first before you judge in your partner.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
really
for sure.
good.
Bravo.
Really good.
That's
okay,
good.
you guys.